What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel and the show. I'm Nick Roby, and we're going to talk a little college football. We had Thursday night action in the ACC, where 5-1 Syracuse was traveling to number 19 Pitt, who was undefeated and looking to remain so. The line was around 5.5, and I ended up going with Pitt just because I think they're a tough place to play, and I like usually home teams when it comes to these midweek matchups unless in general, and unless other circumstances come up. And so I thought I liked Pitt. I leaned Pitt, but I was still expecting a tough game. And man, this game went not how I thought it was going to go, in the sense that Pitt's defense was just swarming. I mean, Pat Narduzzi and the Panthers have been known over the years for their defense, but you kind of think, okay, McCord can throw the ball. Gadsden is a good receiving tight end. They got Pena outside. They've been known to move the ball, and man, it was crazy. They ended up winning 41-13, and this game was not close. I've never seen. There were two pick sixes in the first quarter. They're up 17-0. Because after those three picks, it was 31-0 at halftime. It ended up being 41-13, but this game was over quickly. Kyle McCord ends up being picked off 5 times. Two of the 5 were just on deflections, and a couple of the pick sixes are it was their night. But it looked like he was staring down receivers a little bit, but Pitt was locked in. They knew where they wanted to go with the ball, even with a couple of guys back. They had it locked in. The first pick six really just got the gates going with only a couple minutes into the ball game. And then the second one hits off of the guy, bobs the hands, and it lands in the guy's arms as he's on the ground. Then they hit like a long field goal, go up, 10-0. They get another pick six to go up 17-0. Then the offense finally scores like an actual touchdown. And then they have another pick six to end the first half. And Syracuse is the one with more yardage. It was wild. I mean, you kind of feel bad for Kyle McCord just because you felt like not all the reads were bad. They just could not run the ball. He did stare down his receivers somewhat, but they were playing good coverage. He ended up being 35 of 64 for 321 yards, 5 picks. Holstein only threw the ball 15 times, only 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, they could have moved the ball better. I think their defense was just so locked in. You really didn't have to have it. And it was good for them to start seeing some momentum in the second half, just offensively. But man, I mean, Allen only had 32 yards rushing for Syracuse, and what makes it worse is Gadsden went out in the second quarter with an injury. So it was just really bad for Syracuse. I mean, there was one point in the second half where Holstein bobbles the snap. It's on the ground. He picks it up, running around, and then they completed like a 20-yard play down the field. It was just that kind of a game. They hit a 57-yard field goal. I mean, everything was lining up Pitt's way. Nothing was going for Syracuse. That scoreline does not indicate the difference between the two teams. I think they're actually pretty similar teams. Of course, Pitt has been in that program has been with there longer, with Brown being only in his first year at Syracuse. They've done some pretty good things, but here's Pitt. You got people have talked about the 3 undefeated teams in the ACC. You've got Clemson, you've got SMU, you've got Miami. Pitt now 3-0, undefeated, 7-0, not number 19 in the country. You would think they move up a little bit. They're kind of sneaky, man, and it was kind of interesting. I wanted to take a look at just their schedule going forward, seeing who they had left. Next week will be really interesting because they go to SMU, who's number 22 in the country. SMU is going to be coming off of a road game at Duke. This will be interesting to see how this translates at SMU. That's a big one. Then they got Virginia, which is winnable. Then a big one is turning out to be is they've got Clemson coming into town. So that could be a big, top 15 type of a matchup if Pitt keeps winning. And they go to Louisville, which is a tough place to play. And then they end at Boston College, which can be a little tough as well. So I think it can kind of work itself out. I think some of these scenarios of there being 3 undefeated teams, or the tiebreakers, I think it will work itself out. But whether one will be left home, if not without divisions. But It's on the table for Pitt, and if their defense is playing like that, they're gonna be really tough. I'm curious to see how it works on the road, how that will translate, and the freshman, Eli Holstein's been playing well, the Alabama transfer, but it'll be interesting to see with him on the road, especially as they're ending, I think of their next 5 games, 3 of them are on the road, and you got Clemson at home. So, and Clemson's gonna be ready to play because they haven't played well the past, they haven't won the past 2 times at Pitt in the most recent time. They did not play well. So they're gonna have everybody's full attention for sure. But just shout out to Pitt, man, that they came ready to go. And I've just never seen that. I've never seen that many pick sixes, especially in a first half like that. I mean, everything that they were throwing up. I mean, we're talking screens, we're talking, outs, towards the sideline. We're talking about balls over the middle, like it was just across the board. And even as they're taking shots, like they're playing good one-on-one coverage and knocking the ball down. And Syracuse is able to make some plays later, but they just couldn't do anything. And also a big point to know is it wasn't even just the picks; it was the pressure that Pitt was able to put up front. The offensive line just looked outmatched. Like McCord constantly had guys in his face. And Tom McCord's not the type of guy. I mean, he can get you a little bit on the ground. He saw a couple of first downs, but he was trying to give himself more room. But there's a couple times where he spun, into a sack because he's trying to escape a guy, and you want him to get rid of the ball. But it's also hard to blame him because there just wasn't a lot of time. And I think he has been great for this offense, but that offensive line's got to give him more time because, even with all those interceptions, not all of them are on him. And he was just under duress all night, man. And I liked how, the coaching staff really was staying behind them and everything, but it's just an example of a tough night. And I think if you're not looking at Pitt, I think you really need to, because they're a sleeper team in the ACC for sure. But there you have it. That was Pitt 41, Syracuse 13. Hope you enjoy a great weekend of college football.